Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to be your host for today. My name is Pauline. I will be your privileged moderator for this session, Unlocking Potential Education for Afghan Girls Against All Odds. We are in the context of the LearningPlanet Festival, the 5th edition of the LearningPlanet Festival. I was working with the LearningPlanet Alliance a couple of years ago and happily volunteering and moderating the session for this year. As a reminder, the LearningPlanet Festival is an initiative launched by the LearningPlanet Institute and UNESCO to synchronize the world around the International Day of Education, 24th of January of each year. And we are coming towards the end of this week, which has welcomed more than 500 events all over the world. It's a real pleasure to be welcoming you today. All of you, welcome for this very special session on the state of education in Afghanistan. We have a wonderful set of 8 speakers with us today. The purpose of this session today will be really to hear from 4 project leaders who are working towards improving the status of education for Afghan girls in Afghanistan locally, and see how we can work together and connect the needs with the resources that will be potentially brought by and contributed by another set of speakers that we will hear from during a second part of the session. But without any further ado, I would love to give the floor first to the 4 project leaders that we are welcoming today. The first of which is Maiwand Qayomi. He is a LearningPlanet Institute master student here at LPI, pursuing a master's degree in interdisciplinary approaches in research and education. And Maiwand, you were also one of the initiators of this particular session. If you could take 5 minutes, please, to tell us more about you, about what you do, about the project that you're currently working on this particular front, and we look forward to hearing from you. Over to you, Maiwand.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, good noon, good afternoon. It's my honor to serve as a voice of silent Afghan girls who are desperately waiting for a medical to grant them access to their basic right, which is education. The saying goes, if you educate a man, you educate a man. If you educate a woman, you educate a generation. This wisdom has always resonated with me. Fueled by this deep conviction, I choose to dedicate my career to education, specifically for Afghan girls. I have had the privilege of teaching in various settings, private, public, and international institutions. Throughout my careers, I have witnessed growth of my female students, which gave me a hope for future of Afghanistan. However, this hope did not last long. After the takeover of the Taliban, my colleague and I chose to stay in the country, driven by decisions to keep education alive and not let the brain drain affect the education system. However, on 20 December 2021, the Taliban issued a ban on university and put an end point to our effort. The day after, I had an exam at Aftab in Institute of Higher Education. Unaware of the Taliban decision, I went to the university to take the exam, as it was the last exam of my student. Around 10 o'clock, out of sudden, vehicle of Taliban arrived and start beating and threatening us. Seeing this horrific sight by our students made them in tears, and with fear they left the class. Unfortunately, they have not graduated yet. This incident left me and my colleagues devastated. We feel depressed, helpless, disappointed, and angered. Witnessing this strategic situation and hearing disappointing news from my student pushed me to resign from teaching position. On 24 December 2021, I resigned from my teaching position as a sign of solidarity with my students and as a protest against the extremist decision of the Taliban. Then with some of my colleagues, we decided to do something since our students were suffering from mental health problems. We started an in-house training center in which we were training computers, management, research, and some other basic subjects. Initially, we started with a few students, but luckily, this student increased dramatically. The center was thriving, but considering the restrictions and for safety of our students, we had to close it. Again, witnessing the dire situations and doing nothing did not allow us to be silent. With my dearest friend, Jawad and Ruby, we thought of starting an online university. The idea was huge, and the challenges were countless and are still countless. Apart from financial and technological challenges, accreditation is one of the hardest hurdles that we face. Without accreditation, it's hard for our volunteers to put their effort in, and there is no motivation for students to continue their studies. I believe having the Planet University will not only address this issue, but will also give hope to another young generations than to deal with this dire situation. However, there are many other challenges ahead of us, but I believe with being together and with supporting each other, we can overcome these challenges, such as accessing of our students to this learning platform, finding job market for them, safety and safety of our students and educators. Regarding university, what we have done and what is supposed to do, I would like to just briefly mention that the currently the website of university has been developed, an agreement between volunteer lecturers and a team of us has been made for providing free volunteer videos and materials, and some of their video hopefully uploaded to our YouTube channel. In addition, the curriculum of some subject has been finalized, and also an art club is established. What we are looking for is having an accreditation system or having an accreditation from somewhere to expedite our journey. I understand that we have a long journey ahead of us and 100 questions to answer. However, I believe by being supportive, we can overcome all of this. Otherwise, we will see the suffering of million girls from early marriage and mental health issue. In conclusion, I want to end my speech with a thoughtful poem from the world-famous poet Sadi Shirazi. Human beings are limbs of one another, created from the same gemstone. When one limbs experience pain, others cannot remain unaffected. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maiwand, for this speech. It's a strong reminder that you gave us on the situation locally over there. Indeed, since the return of the de facto government back in August 2021, 80%, the UN reports that 80% of girls under 12 are deprived of their education, which means 2.5 million girls under 12 that are kept away from the classroom, and not only are they deprived of education, but also it adds up with mental health issues that you have also just mentioned about the insecurity, the fear that is associated with the situation. The university that you're discussing is incredible in its idea. You mentioned a few challenges, financial, technical, but you stressed on the lack of accreditation, which results in the lack of motivation for the students. We'll get back to this challenge in the second part of our session today, and see how we can together, as people coming together, maybe provide solutions to the challenges that are mentioned by you. Second, thank you again, Maiwand. Second, I would love to give the floor to Soomaya. Soomaya, are you with us? Soomaya Javadi. is a human rights activist, bachelor student in biomedical science in Canada. You also are a 30 Birds girl, i.e. you have been supported by the 30 Birds Foundation to evacuate from Afghanistan back in 2021. We would love to hear from you, Soomaya, for the next 5 minutes on what are you up to, how are you, what are the projects that you are currently working on, and what are maybe the challenges that you face currently.
Thank you. I am truly honored to be with you today. I would love to open my statement by letting you know how much I appreciate all of you and everyone who tirelessly works towards providing an education to Afghan girls. On January 6th, more than 20 people burned alive in a minibus in a terrorist attack in western Kabul. 5 people died. Among them was a young woman, Khadija, a talented graphic designer. 3 years ago, I attended her wedding. Last night, I watched a video of the minibus burning with her inside it. Today, I am speaking in her memory. On August 15th, 2021, at 6 p.m., I realized that Kabul had fallen to the Taliban. We were so scared that my brother and I started packing all the books we had in big bags and carried them to the backyard. We buried and burned around 500 books, my books too, The Second Sex, The Feminine Mystique, A Room of One's Own, gateways to my knowledge and identity. At 4 a.m., I was looking at my empty bookcase, with my eyes filled with tears, with my life shattered overnight, grieving my cherished books that I had collected over the years, with little notes and signatures on them. Scared to death of what was to come next, I felt I am not dead, but the Taliban are pouring soil on me. I buried my books and fled Afghanistan with the 30 Birds Foundation because I feared what the Taliban would do to me if they knew that I was a proud, educated Afghan woman, a feminist, a Hazara, a Shia. The stuff of my worst nightmares is now the daily reality for the Afghan girls who were left behind. After the Taliban took over, we have witnessed numerous education initiatives for girls. I would like to highlight some challenges that we can overcome only if we work together. Most of Afghanistan geography does not have access to even 2G internet services. Many people live in extreme poverty and do not even have smartphones. Online education services do not reach students in villages without the internet. I kindly ask those of you with influence on policymaking to think about supporting underground home-based schools where girls who are already educated educate other girls. This way, you not only bring education to a community with limited access to internet and technology, but you also make jobs for women who are banned from working. But it's not just the girls who suffer. As I am speaking to you, Afghan boys attend school, but what do they learn? The Taliban have removed civil studies, peace studies, and any subject related to human rights, pluralism, global citizenship, and foreign languages. I am a Hazara Shia Muslim, but Shia religious jurisprudence is not allowed to be taught or publicly practiced anymore. Today, when young women go out of their homes in Kabul, they will be arrested by the Taliban under the pretext of bad hijab. Many never return home again. This is the culture that Afghanistan's boys are being raised in. It has been almost 3 years since the Taliban started raising a misogynistic, extremist, intolerant generation. We must start thinking about how we are going to fight back and promote human rights values, not only for the sake of girls, but others too. Deciding to leave Afghanistan was not easy. I was a dentistry student a few months away from graduation. I had studied dentistry for 5.5 years out of a 6-year degree. I can diagnose, plan, and perform a treatment. I was planning to graduate and open a dental clinic. I was preparing to buy a dental unit and other instruments. But in the eyes of the Taliban, I was not born to become a dentist, a free, equal human. I was born to become the inferior, the other, the passive, the object, the woman. Now in Canada, I am free, but all of my education to be a dentist doesn't count. I never graduated and I do not have a diploma. For me and others like me, it is extremely painful to have worked so hard for an education that we can never use. I am appealing to all of you to actively think, search, and create pathways where you can provide Afghan girls with an internationally recognized diploma or certificate that enables them to use the education you are giving them to work or study farther, at least out of Afghanistan. The Girls College in Kabul is a local organization that supports girls with G12 to do English proficiency tests and SATs, so they can apply for foreign universities. Education is not only about knowing things, but it must enable one to use their knowledge and qualifications to improve their quality of life. When I got to Canada, I asked myself who I am going to become. And I ask you today, who do you want Afghan women to become? Free, educated, equal human beings, or what the Taliban want them to be? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Soomaya, for your testimony. We will remember that the main challenges that you face are about reach, connectivity, how to get the contents to everyone, and not only to Afghan girls, but also open the scope to the education of Afghan boys and the contents that they have access to as well as international accreditation and recognition of degrees. Thank you so much, Soomaya, for this. We'll move on in a very similar way to Hamida Aman. Hamida, you're the founder of the Begum Organization for Women, which carries also Radio Begum and Begum Academy. Can you tell us more about these projects and about your work? Over to you for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Maiwand and Soomaya mentioned many emotional topic already. A few things that are very touching and very true, and give a very nice highlight of what's going on currently in Afghanistan. With Radio Begum is a radio station that is broadcasted from Kabul to provinces. It's the only voice of Afghan women currently available in Afghanistan. The radio station is run by women and made by women. There are about 30 people working in this radio station, and we are covering 20 provinces out of 34. And from the first beginning, Radio Begum's main mission is education. So we are producing every day educational classes, educational programs that we are broadcasting through radio. So every day we have college girls coming in our studio, and we record with real students class sessions based on the Afghan curriculum, and we broadcast this on our radio. So we allocate 6 hours per
Recording
day
stopped.
to education, 3 hours in Dari and 3 hours in Pashto. This is what we did. We started this mission, or even before that, the change of the regime, that the arrival of Taliban. Because before that, we shouldn't forget that girls and boys were away from school already because of the extreme
Recording in
violence
progress.
and lack of security for children, and also because of COVID. So it means even in August 2021, when Taliban took power, it was already 2 years that our girls and boys were most of the time away from school. And now again, 2 years with Taliban, more than 2 years and a half. Total, we are about to reach 5 years of girls away from school. It's not only 2 years that we usually use this. So for this reason, we didn't wait it that Taliban bans girls from school to start these educational programs, and we keep going with that. So far we haven't been bothered about these educational classes that we are providing through radio. Taliban, of course, were reluctant to other content of our radio, but not on the educational programs. So knowing that, we keep going with feeding our audience with education, and gives us also a lot of energy and motivation to go one step beyond, because radio is good, but we cannot teach all subjects on, for instance, mathematics, chemistry, or physics couldn't be taught by radio, because it needs to be visual. But since last November, we launched Begum Academy. It's a digital platform that contains all the Afghan curriculum, all the Afghan program in video. So it means we produce more than 8,500 videos in Dari, half of it in Dari, half of it in Pashto, that we put on this platform and on YouTube, in order for the children, for the students to access for free these videos. And this is from 7th grade to 12th grade that we are covering this stage. And of course, we have a chat room, and we have feedback of our students. We have feedbacks of the parents who are talking to us, who are sharing their concern, who are sharing their problems. And of course, the first questions and problem raised was the lack of access to data, to internet, of course, lack of energy. And of course, the children don't have all of them devices. They have only telephone, and most of the time, the telephone belongs to the father. And the girls, they have only a few minutes per day the telephone in their hands. So we know that there are so many challenges, but at least we did it. At least we cannot solve all problems of Afghanistan, but at least we worked night and days and we produce in 8 months all the curriculum in video. Each videos, for instance, are 15 minutes with a lot of information, and it's Afghan school, but better than Afghan school. So the ideal school that we are giving to our audience, and this is not only for girls, but for all Afghan children. And this is very important, and we are using the Afghan curriculum, and we based our teaching on the Afghan books, in order to help to allow also our users, the students, to get access to these books. They can find it in the market or from the older siblings. This is something very important to say. And the next step for our program, educational program, we have now these more than 8,500 videos that we are going to use through satellite. And very soon we are launching a TV, an educational TV, containing all these videos all day long. We are broadcasting educational videos towards the children. Of course, it will never replace school, but at least we are helping the children, the college girls, to get to keep going, to keep educating themselves, and one day until that schools reopen soon.
So much, Hamida, for this testimony, this hopeful one, very inspiring. It's so inspiring that you were able to set it up so quickly and so efficiently. You mentioned, nonetheless, of course, the challenges in terms of device and connectivity access, in terms of quality and diversity of contents, but it's already quite inspiring what Begum has been able to do thanks to your impulse. Last but not the least, testimony of the day from another project leader before we open up the conversation to our other 4 speakers, with whom I will present in a few minutes. We have Aimal Qaderi with us, I hope. Can you hear us, Aimal?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, Aimal. Welcome among us. You are the Training and Support Director of Teach for Afghanistan. If you could take just the next few minutes, 4-5 minutes, to tell us about your work, to tell us about the projects that you've been implementing on the field, especially with the support of this broader network that you're a part of, Teach for All, and the challenges that you face currently. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much. Good evening from Afghanistan to everyone, to all listeners, participants, and contributors. I hope my speech can benefit you from Afghanistan realities and its internal ways of sudden changes. Before I start my speech, I would like to mention that we are all walking in the same path towards a specific national and international goal, which is girls' education. But our only difference is our strategies. We apply, and it depends on how we have looked to the problems, and we have prioritized our understandings and solutions based on our local achievement and realistic goals. We all know that not a single female was involved when the decision was taken to ban girls from school. We have two options to know: match deeply to survive our activities towards better future. The stands have been taken by the government. What is the reason that they have banned the schools of girls? Girls are banned from education, as the real title is Stop Girls Secondary School Until Next Degree. When is the next degree? No one knows. The reasons are school uniform, male teachers teach females, curriculum which is different from the Islamic studies. This is how they have the reasons, and they have banned girls from school. So, what is our responsibility, and what are we doing within Teach for Afghanistan? We believe that if we lose our patients, we will lose the fight. Professionally, we are responsible to bring changes, but we should find the roots to do so. We all know that in 90% of the today's world, it is men who are ruling, including Afghanistan. We are all where all the decisions are taken by men, and mannish behavior towards every phenomena has kept women far from many social and essential rights. We are on our path to change mindsets. In Teach for Afghanistan, we are working to change mindsets. We are teaching to change men to respect the rights of women. Teaching male students for now to respect rights and women's contribution in society is the best option for today. If you could bring changes in mindset of men who are future planners in this context, we will soon have our goals achieved. To open the doors of education to all female who are crucial part and contributors to the society and development of this country. What we are appreciating today in Teach for Afghanistan is that our female have the right to study in primary school. This means that the thirst to education remains, and they will ask for more one day, which is a support to other voices who want the school's door open. I suggest all the organizations here to come together, make partnership, and struggle for a bilateral vision in which every female can see a better future. This is what we are doing in Teach for Afghanistan, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Aimal, for your testimony. I will remember from what you said that you are changing mindsets and you're trying to focus on value-based education. I would also remember the last word that you used in order to open the second part of our session, coming together. And
Yes.
connecting together, connecting the needs with the resources, connecting the weaknesses and the strength that we have as a global community to come and try to improve the situation as far as education is concerned in Afghanistan, which is arguably a very, very special and unfortunately unique case in the world. Thank you, Aimal, for your testimony. We'll move on to the second part of our session, welcoming 4 other guests, contributors guests. We have Victoria Fontan. with us. Welcome, Victoria, Provost and VP of Academic Affairs of the American University of Afghanistan and the head of the Alliance for Education of Women in Afghanistan. We also are very happily welcoming Justin Hefter. You heard from Soomaya earlier, who spoke about the 30 Birds Foundation. Well, Justin is the co-founder and the executive director of the 30 Birds Foundation. We look forward to hearing more from you on this. We also welcome Janvi Kanoria. Janvi, I see that you, on the chat, you've already shared quite a few resources. Thank you so much. Janvi, you are the director of the Innovation Development Directorate at the Education Above All Foundation. And we are also welcoming our dear François Tadei, founder and president of the LearningPlanet Institute. Basically, I will invite the four of you in the time that we have left to react on what you've heard from our four project leaders and to maybe come and directly try and bridge the needs that you heard from them with some of the resources, some of the ideas, some of the projects that you yourself are working with, equipped with the organizations that either you've started or that you are a part of. I was thinking maybe, Victoria, you could tell us more about the recent alliance that you are currently heading and tell us more about the purpose of this alliance and what it's going to focus on. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone, and thank you for organizing this really important session. I'm speaking to you from Qatar, which gave Qatar Fund for Development gave our university emergency funding to host 200 students, majority of which women, to pursue their education in Qatar. And as you have heard from other presentations, learning is taking place no matter what. Learning keeps taking place. It was the same in the 1990s and it is the same now. As the ban was promulgated, we didn't really know as a UAF what we could do to tangibly help. And funding was lacking to scale up what we were doing. So we decided instead to establish an alliance of organizations that directly is directly involved in the teaching secondary and tertiary learning of women in Afghanistan, either face-to-face, but for the majority online. Many of those organizations, alliance partners, are with us today and have already spoken, and it's great to see you online. And as we've established this alliance, we were worried at first about what could happen in Afghanistan in relation to the alliance. So far, so good. We've got now up to 40 organizations, and we've tried to really address some of the issues that have already been mentioned today. So what we're doing as an alliance is to, number one, open a discussion, or let's say facilitate bilateral discussions between member organizations. And we also try to address some of the common issues that organizations are facing. So as I said, learning is taking place, but what about accreditation and who accredits what? What about certifications so that the learning that is taking place with Radio Begum is recognized, for instance, by AUAF for their students to be able to, and their learners to be able to, bridge directly into our program. So we're working on that as well. And this is something this is an ongoing discussion. We also want to make sure that all those different initiatives are signposted for learners so that they can have a one-stop shop to go to and say and decide what they want to do. Do they want informal learning? Do they want something that's going to be recognized, etc.? And we also want to make sure that, as I said before, we can bridge our different programs and admit one another. In terms of accreditation, what we are pursuing is twofold. Number one would be a peer-to-peer recognition within the alliance. And we also would like to leverage international organizations to give us the same thing that refugees have when they don't have when they don't have legal legal identification, means of identification. The same happens for institutions, to make sure that also students, when they leave areas that are challenged or that are experiencing conflict, can also account for their learning. So this is something that we also would like to work on. Of course, we ourselves, we also are sharing information about access, bandwidth, electricity, etc. But we're also faced with the fact that all the organizations within the Alliance are working in an emergency. For us, the crisis is over, but the emergency is still there. And so it's very difficult to find ourselves bandwidth from within our day jobs to be able to work on this alliance and keep connecting. So that's all I'm going to say. But all those issues that have been mentioned, we're trying to gather together to find a way forward together, and most importantly, to keep supporting women on the ground, women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I mean, working within the ecosystem of the LearningPlanet Alliance, of course, we also, all of us, and I'll give François the floor in a few minutes, but we believe in this community coming together and eventually, as you said, gaining time and energy towards the common goals that are shared among the members. If there are any specific next steps that you would like everybody on this call to consider, for example, joining the Alliance and how to do so, don't hesitate to mention it in the chat as we move forward towards the next speaker. I was thinking maybe Justin, I hope you can hear us from where you are at the 30 Birds Foundation. Justin, we heard from Soomaya earlier today. Can you tell us more about the 30 Birds Foundation? If I'm not mistaken, you evacuated 450 girls from Afghanistan in 2021. What are the plans of the foundation currently? What are you busy with currently, and how can we create synergies with what you've heard so far in the session?
Thank you so much. And this is just such a fantastic community of educators and activists and people who really care. You know, I came at this, as you mentioned, from the evacuation perspective. For years, I've been helping extraordinary young people get out of difficult situations internationally. And so I came at this thinking in August 2021 that I was going to join a team helping get extraordinary schoolgirls out of Afghanistan, young women and girls like Soomaya, and that would be it. That once everybody got to safety, once everybody got out, that would be the end of the story. And it wasn't until I actually met Soomaya in person in Ottawa in May 2022, and just saw how absolutely amazing she was, and how amazing Neela was, and amazing Pauline is. And you know, I did my undergrad at Stanford. I did my master's degree at Harvard. I've had the opportunity to study with, learn from some of the most brilliant people on the planet. I've never met anyone like Soomaya. I've never met anyone like the Afghan women and girls who have put literally everything on the line for their education. And so it was after meeting them that I realized you know, safety is not enough. You know, these are the people who should be leading our planet, not just surviving on it. And so 30 Birds is really now dedicated. I like what Victoria said, the crisis is over, but the emergency is not. And the emergency is both real for Afghan girls inside Afghanistan and very real for the ones that have fled. You know, Soomaya is a dentist. You know, she can treat patients in a dental clinic, but she can't be a dentist in Canada. And Canada has a shortage of dentists. Canada is desperate for more dentists. And it's going to be 4, maybe 6 years before Soomaya can actually perform dentistry in Canada, something that she could do today. all because she was a few months short of her graduation, and the international systems don't accept the credits from her institution as if they were from a Western or a Canadian institution. And it's those kinds of things that just blow my mind. And Soomaya is not alone, and there are hundreds and thousands of Afghan women and girls around the world who have these incredible skills and this incredible wisdom, who are not being listened to, who don't have the platforms to share. And so at 30 Birds, we're both helping those on the ground who we're still very connected with do the incredible work, the work like you heard Hamida describe, and the work like you heard Professor Qaderi describe. And everybody here on this call describe, but we're also working incredibly hard to help those in the diaspora, to make sure that women and girls like Soomaya can elevate their voices in forums like the Learning Planet Institute, in educational forums, in professional forums. We're launching a global leadership network for extraordinary Afghan women and girls in the diaspora called Wingspan, that is supporting young women and girls, refugees, with scholarships, with mentorship, with mental health support, and with additional advanced trainings. And what we're seeing is incredible. Just one of the kind of basic things that came out of one of our recent impact reports, an important learning for a number of the girls that we were working with, that it was new to them that they were allowed to say no. That was incredible. Soomaya said, education's not just about, providing people with information. It's about giving them the tools that they can survive and lead. And the ability to say no is like a fundamental basic right that clearly hadn't been taught in Afghanistan. And so I think when we think about education and educating Afghan women and girls and providing them opportunities, it's beyond information. It has to be empowerment. It has to be, it has to be education plus the kinds of things that will allow a generation not to be lost. And so that's in general what we're working on at 30 Birds, and we're so lucky to be a part of this community with all of you, and I'm very excited to keep collaborating beyond this call. So thank you so much.
So much, Justin, and thank you for
Recording stopped.
also reminding us that, as you said, 30 Birds Foundation was probably not meant to stay along for too long. I'm not sure, but then it's a work of patience in a situation of emergency, and I guess that balance is quite difficult to find, and that patience and the sustainability of the projects that we think about together as an alliance and a community of people who care about the same issue. I think it's going to be very important to support each other in continuing in the long run towards these common goals that we've identified. Thank you, Justin, again. Moving on, I would love to hear from Janvi. You've been very generously sharing a lot in the chat. I see Janvi from the Education Above All Foundation. What are your reactions, hearing all of these testimonies, Janvi, and what is it that the foundation could very concretely do, to support the challenges that we've heard from our project leaders?
Thank you for that. And I have to say, being here is so incredibly heartbreaking, but yet so incredibly filled with optimism, because really hearing from everyone here, you feel like no matter what anyone does, keeping the spirit of education down and people down to actually ensure that education happens is impossible. So it's really wonderful to just get that renewed vigor. And I think bringing the community together really helps in that. So being really practical, there's a three-pronged approach that Education Above All is following through. The first, which I know is less talked about in this session, but I would like to bring up because it's really hard work, and to Justin's point, incredible amounts of patience, is negotiations with the de facto government. So we've been leading multiple negotiations with the de facto government to talk through what education for girls could look like. And what we're trying to do is really say, we understand that there are a lot of competing forces for them, And we understand that they are also being challenged and are not necessarily able to make decisions unilaterally. And yet, if we are able to create systems and create standards which would permit them to manage both sides of that conversation, could we go ahead and what could we bring to the table to make that happen? So what that concretely means is we've been talking to them to say, can the IOC, which is basically a group of Muslim countries, help design a set of standards and systems whereby education for girls can be designed within those parameters. So these are parameters which would be acceptable by all standards. And then how could we then bring international donors to the table to say, if you're working within a transparent framework, there is opportunities. As you can imagine, this is really difficult work, and the negotiations haven't always been very successful, but we are really pushing that because as much as we are also working on alternative education and trying to get girls out, it's really important that we also try and work on the root cause of the issue. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The second piece is strengthening systems in Afghanistan, which, as was mentioned before, for boys, for girls in primary, there's also huge challenges around quality. So really working on that quality piece and trying to strengthen that in schools. There are, of course, a lot of ghost schools that you might all hear about. So there are lots of locations which just do not have schools. So just strengthening that institutional capacity is something we're working on. The third is getting children out of there. So we heard about projects that Qatar is doing. Our Fakura project has also managed to negotiate a visa category in the US to help Afghan girls get out. But as was said, I think the bigger problem, as Soomaya very eloquently pointed out, was the lack of portability and comparability of accreditation and degrees. So that's another thing that we've been trying to work on. And so one of the programs that we're trying to work on is upskilling and ensuring alternative accreditations. So what that really means is, I think similar to also what Victoria was saying, how do we ensure pathways? So how do we ensure pathways to jobs, employment, or the next stage? And as long as we can do that bilateral agreement and ensure that pathway opens up, maybe accreditation becomes less of a challenge, because frankly, accreditation is typically held by government, which makes it very challenging for us. And then, of course, things like the European qualifications framework exists, but that doesn't really exist in this part of the world, which creates many challenges. So we are trying to work on different pieces. And so I'd be happy to know we're also trying to work on actually medicine. It's very early stages, but we're trying to see if there can be hospitals that offer placements and then clinical work that students who've completed a large part of their degree can do, so that there's an opportunity to actually get employed, not after 4 years, but in a shorter time period. So I think that's another piece that we've been working on. So for example, we're also having a conversation with Coursera to say what kind of programs can you offer which will ensure some sort of remote digital work. So that's, on the very practical skills that we can offer, and then employment opportunities, because of course poverty is a big driver of lack of education as well. And then finally, something which I posted on the group as well, which is looking at different ways for alternate education. So we created this fairly large bank of content, which we have managed to get approved by the de facto government. It's all really low resource requiring content, which is what makes it wonderful, and no technology requiring. So once downloaded or printed once, it can just be disseminated. It does not require any technology to do. It does not even require pens and pencils in most cases, because we wanted to try and ensure that there was educational content which would help children learn anywhere from without anything and with anyone. So it exists all in Dari and Pashto, and we've been working in a couple of provinces in Afghanistan rolling out this content, but it's available cost-free on our website, open source. So please feel free to use it or share it as you might find it useful. So that's a little bit what we've been trying to do, work on the system, but at the same time trying to create alternate systems. So hopefully, we are really, really hopeful that the first one also cracks at some point, because whatever we do on the alternate systems, it would never suffice. But that's really where I think the game of patience and persistence lies.
Thank you so much, Janvi. Super inspiring to hear the span of your work at the foundation. As planned, we are running late. I see the countdown that is down to 6 minutes, and I will very conveniently move towards François. François, if you can hear us. I was thinking maybe you could help us put together everything that we've learned and heard during the session. I will take the time to mention here that this is just a starter, of a longer conversation that at the Alliance, of course, we have the responsibility to take forward and to follow up after this hour together. Obviously, this is just the very beginning and not the end. But François, if you can help us bring together everything that we've learned and what are the next steps that you see and what is it that we could do together as an alliance of organizations and individuals that are equally passionate about this issue. Over to you, François. How do we bring it together?
Honestly, I'm very moved, and it's obvious that I'm not the only one that was very moved by what we've heard. I could see all the faces on the screen, and I could hear the voices, and I could hear the emotions, and it's obvious that the situation is really such that everyone, I guess, in the call and beyond would want to help, and so that's certainly what we are going to try to do. As you said, Pauline, we don't have enough time today to go further, but that's just the beginning, and we'll definitely want to continue this conversation. I know some of you, like Maiwand, are already in the Learning Planet Institute. I know Victoria is visiting soon, and I hope all of those of you that would want to continue the conversation either digitally or physically will be more than welcome. And so that's certainly something we want to do. And obviously, there is so much need that we have to join forces to make a difference. What impressed me is the quality of the people in the call and the quality of the work that is already being done. And so if only we could help you to move forward, we would be already very happy. But I think we can do probably more than this by listening to the needs of the individual and the collective that you represent, and maybe provide you with whatever is the most needed. But I have heard recognition is one of those things that is very needed, and I think what we can do is we want to build some sort of an incubator for projects that can have an impact, and Maiwand is already part of this incubator, and I guess many of you could be joining that incubator. Yesterday we've heard what a Pan-Asian University Design Challenge can become. We've heard 70 amazing ideas from all over the world. There's already some from Afghanistan, and I'm sure there will be more soon. And so can we help you take some of your ideas further? We'll be delighted to do so and help you get the recognition for the work that you're doing, and ideally, scale this. We have the luck to be well connected to UNESCO and United Nations University, and if we can help build some of the bridge that is needed to move this further, we'll be delighted to do that. We are trying to build a Pan-Asian university that ideally will be able to get accredited all over the world, which is what United Nations University is already. And I think that could be a game changer if we manage to build that bridge. And obviously, prototyping this Pan-Asian university together with you would be something really among the top priority of what we could be doing. And I think that, we were on a call with Valérie, Olivier, and a few others just before on learning ecosystems. And I think that, there is an emerging learning ecosystem in Afghanistan that is very inspiring. And if we can help you by, connecting the dots and helping you learn from other research learning ecosystems and so on, I'm sure we'll be delighted to do that as well. So again, we are not going to solve everything in the next 30 seconds, but this is just the beginning, and we want to move it forward. And so all of you that want to reach out to us, please do. We'll put you our contacts in the chat so that you can come back to us, and we can try to take that forward.
Thank you so much, Francois. And I see that we are coming to the very end of the session. I would like to take the time to share how grateful I have been to witness all of these testimonies. I agree with Francois. I agree with Janvi. I think it was mentioned the emotion that was in the call, as well as all of the pragmatic solutions that we all together are invited to act upon from now onwards, have been tremendously inspiring. So let's, as Francois said, embrace a needs-based approach, listen to the local needs while activating a global community for resources towards Afghanistan and education in Afghanistan through a multi-stakeholders approach. Everybody is concerned by this issue. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy International Day of Education and week in our case with the LearningPlanet Festival. It's been a pleasure to be your host. All the best, and looking forward to following the next steps with you on the matter. Thank you so much, everyone.